Hello everyone, I'm Ellie Morrell from Henry Stewart Events, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar, How to Reshape Creative Teams, Myths, Truths and the AI Revolution, kindly sponsored by EKCS. During the session, please send through your questions at any point using the question box, which you can open by clicking on the question mark at the top of the GoToWebinar window. Also, a reminder that a recording of this session will be sent to you tomorrow, so you can view it again at your own pace. Now it's my great pleasure to pass you over to David Bevan and Tariq Husain from EKCS. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Ellie, and welcome everybody. Let's get started. So, myths, truths, and the AI revolution, how to reshape creative teams. So, welcome everybody. We're so pleased that you've joined us today for what we hope to be a thought-provoking exploration of our industry's future. Let's start by saying this. We don't have all the answers. In fact, I believe that in our evolving field, clinging to fixed solutions can be a liability. Instead, we're going to ask the questions that will challenge us, make us uncomfortable, and ultimately help us grow. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. I'm David Bevan, a creative consultant with over a decade of experience of in-house leadership. I specialise in driving innovation and efficiency in design and technology operations. I'll now hand over to my co-host Tariq to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Tariq Husain. I'm the co-founder of EKCS, and I lead the technology and operations teams. Just a little bit about EKCS before I tell you more about my role. We're a 600 people organization. We provide marketing solutions to brands, to agencies, news media, and broadcast media companies. And we do things like, content production at scale, campaign execution, work management, creative automation solutions. So it's essentially a whole gamut of solutions. And I lead, as I said, the technology and operations teams. I've been doing it for, over 20 years now. And having been doing this for so long, I've had repeated opportunities to focus on emerging technologies to drive innovation and efficiencies, with the ultimate objective to enhance our clients' ROI. So that's a bit about myself.
Brilliant, thanks Tariq. So let's move into the session. So what are we covering today? We're not just discussing design operations, we're reimagining them. We're questioning our assumptions, our challenges, our processes, and pushing the boundaries of what we believe is possible for our teams. As such, we'll be diving into 7 critical areas. Number 1, the technological tide. Are you riding the wave or are you being swept away? Number 2, debunking the AI myth, balancing automation and human creativity. Number 3, people's, processes and tech stack reviews, optimizing what you have. Number 4, the art of the brief, the foundation of efficiency and quality. Number 5, setting your house in order with no cost preparation strategies. Number 6, time is your most valuable asset, maximizing efficiency. And finally, number 7, future-proofing, preparing for potential investment. It's worth noting, as we explore these topics, it's crucial that we address a common misconception, the idea that we can just get AI to do it. Whilst AI is a powerful tool, it is not a magic wand. True innovation doesn't come from algorithms alone, it springs from human creativity, collaboration, and a culture that encourages fresh ideas. So as we navigate this webinar, we invite you to lean into discomfort of uncertainty. Embrace the power of, I don't know yet. Your most valuable asset today is the ability to challenge yourself and your team's capabilities. We want this session to be interactive, so we'll be asking questions to the audience throughout the session via polls. Feel free to contribute your vote for the most relevant response. So let's embark on this journey together. Let's ask the difficult questions about our team's capabilities, our industry's future, and our roles within it. Because it's through these questions that we'll uncover the innovative solutions that will propel our teams forward. Are you ready to change the status quo and redefine what's possible? Let's dive in. Number one, the technological tide. Are you riding the wave or being swept away? Do you remember when Photoshop was the game changer? You fast forward to today and it's just the tip of the iceberg. AI, AR, VR, they're not just fancy buzzwords. There's the tools shaping the future of creativity. But before we get into that, let's have a fact check. Over 85% of creative agencies say that technology is fundamentally changing their operations. Fundamentally changing. Like, that's a pretty big deal. What does it look like for your team? And 73% of agencies believe that technology helps them deliver more innovative solutions. So if almost 3/4 of agencies see the benefit, what is holding your team back? In order to find the truth, it may be helpful to ask yourself these questions. From pixel pushers to idea architects, how is AI shifting the focus from execution to strategy in creative teams? The automation advantage. What repetitive tasks can you automate today to free up time for big picture thinking? Skills for the future. Forget just knowing design software. What new skills will be essential for creative professionals in the age of AI? And finally, the human touch. What aspects of creativity will always need that human spark, and why? So let's jump into our first poll for today. And the first question is, AI in creative, are you excited or you're unsure? Your two possible responses are 1, riding the wave, or number 2, finding my footing.
It's interesting how the tracker is moving, right? Almost like a ticker symbol.
Okay, I see we're at 57%, so we'll just give it a few more seconds to capture these. Okay, should we call it there? So we've got a split there of what, 75% that are finding their footing. So I think what we find here is that while a good number are probably keen to dive into the world of AI, it seems like the majority are still finding their way. And look, this is completely understandable. You know, AI is a game changer, and thoughtful adoption is key to moving things forward. And hopefully we're here today to help provide the clarity and the resources needed for people on this session to navigate the shift successfully. Let's move on to the next section. So number 2, debunking the AI myth, balancing automation and human creativity. Let's ditch the Hollywood drama. AI isn't about robots stealing the creative spotlight. It's about giving you superpowers. It's probably best to think of AI as your new sidekick, boosting your productivity and unlocking fresh ideas. But before we get into that, let's have a fact check. By 2025, AI adoption in the creative industry could lead to savings of up to $8 billion, driven by efficiencies in content production, curation, and personalization. Are you leveraging AI to its full potential, or are you leaving money on the table? Next point, creative industries are projected to see a 30% annual growth in AI adoption by 2026. 30% annual growth. That's not just a wave, that is a tsunami of AI adoption. Tariq will now talk to you about our AI journey and showcase how AI is transforming creative workflows, covering automated design iterations, personalized content creation, and predictive analytics. These advancements are not merely futuristic, they are happening now, reshaping how we approach creativity. I'll now hand over to Tariq.
Thanks, David. So, I mean, as David said, I'll talk about our journey of balancing AI-driven automation and human creativity, and I'll tell you about our learnings, the changes that we had to make in our process, in our technology, the reskilling of our people along the way, and I'm hoping that this would be helpful to all of you. But before I start, I mean, so really the start rather of the journey was about 2.5 years back. As I said earlier, that one of the things we do here at EKCS is produce content at scale. So this is essentially all sorts of content, but we had a particular opportunity to automate or part automate advertising asset production at scale around 2.5 years back. And and just a little bit about what these assets were is essentially campaign assets that we're producing from master creatives for different channels, print, digital, video. And when we started our journey, we tried out a bunch of different ideas around how we could automate the production or bits of the production. And in hindsight, I would say I'll put them into sort of three main categories. The ideas that we tried out. The first was, we tried out using creative automation tools. Perhaps the functionality, unlocking the functionality we weren't, using the usual suspects like Chili, One to Edit, Celtra, and a bunch of other automation tools. Then the other thing, and remember that this was pre launch of ChatGPT, right? So this was early 2022. So the other thing, that we also tried out was building our own custom models using a lot of data that we had. I mean, we'd been working for these brands, for these advertisers for a long time. I mean, in some cases, almost 4, 5, 6 years or more. So we had a lot of sort of data around creative task briefs. We had archives of assets we produced. We had data on who was the designer who worked on the creative task, among other things. So we thought, let's try building custom models to predict things that a designer or perhaps a creative manager to essentially predict the decision the designer or creative manager would make. For example, when a new request comes in, who's the best designer to work on it. When we're sort of producing adaptations from masters, what's the best way to resize the text or the image, or what's the best way to crop the image. So again, that was sort of the second category of ideas that we tried out. And finally, as we were going along on this journey, up came ChatGPT in late 2022, and of course, all the other publicly available models like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, among others. So we also started, leveraging these publicly available models to essentially predict or make the same sort of decisions that we were trying to make using our custom models. So these were the different ideas, and along the way, of course, we had lots of learning, and again, the three sort of key learnings that we had rather is one. Is that AI is great at initiating something. So be it giving you ideas for concepts, or perhaps coming up with the first iteration of an adaptation or an advertising asset. And I often sort of refer to this as when I'm talking to my own teams as AI is great at overcoming your writer's block. So that's one. The second, as you'd expect, AI is quite useful to automate repetitive tasks, because unlike algorithmic or script-based automation, AI is able to understand the context and perhaps be smarter in the repetitive task that you're automating. And the third, important sort of learning was that a good solution will combine lots of different approaches. So in our case, we ended up, as I said, we tried out three categories of ideas, and in our case, in our sort of what we now call Media Ferry AI solution, and more on that in a bit. We ended up combining creative automation tools, a couple of our own custom models, and using publicly available models like ChatGPT, AWS, text extract, image recognition, and a few others. So those were sort of the three key things that we learned along the way. And another interesting thing that also happened is that as we were trying out, these different approaches, these different tools, we were compelled to articulate, our long term and our short term goals or priorities. For example, in this particular case, we said that our long-term goal is that we want to produce 80% of print, digital, and video advertising assets AI first, and that's where sort of this term AI first came. Versus, in the short term, we wanted to sort of articulate something which was specific, measurable, achievable, time bound. So we said that our SMART goal or priority is that by end of the year we want to produce 25% of all digital banner and social assets AI first. So we said we'll first tackle digital banner and social before we get to video and print assets. And this really helped everyone understand the why are we using AI, what are we trying to use AI for, and it kept sort of reminding all of us to stay on track, especially when new shiny tools came about. So this was some of the highlights of our journey, balancing automation and human creativity. And once we had once we had sort of identified the automation strategy, the next was to sort of really review our people, process, technology, to see what changes were needed in those areas. So yeah, David, you want to go to the next slide? Yeah. So before I do that, before I tell you about what our review entailed, a quick sort of fact check that 60% of companies don't fully use their technology stack, which potentially wastes $300 billion. So that's so that's interesting, of course, and no one wants to sort of waste money. So therefore, our intent from the get go was to unlock more potential from our existing people, existing technology, see what needs changing in the process to unlock that potential. And really what this review was leading to was to identify the changes really needed in our people, process, technology stack to control and optimize AI, and to top and tail AI generated content. And let me explain what I mean by that before I go further. So firstly, what I mean by control and optimize AI, or top and tail AI generated content. So really, before you can actually use any automation system, be it AI or otherwise, you obviously need to sort of configure it. That's really what topping is all about. And in the case of AI, you need to be able to sort of control it, so that it's creating assets or creatives that are brand compliant, and so on. So that's really what I mean by controlling and topping AI. And in terms of optimizing, what I mean there is, look, you're not going to sort of hit it out of the park from the get go, right? The first asset you produce, it's not going to be anywhere close to perfect, and you want sort of a mechanism to constantly optimize AI. And then finally, the AI generated assets, you want to be able to quickly, what I mean by tailing is quickly review them and edit them. And this is where obviously the humans, designers have an important role to play. So really, what this review led to was, to identify the changes, and I sort of use this acronym PPT to remember, people, change and people, process, tools. So this review process was really all about identifying the changes, that were needed in our PPT to accomplish our future state workflow, or the goal, that, remember I said by end of the year we want to be producing 25% of all digital banner and social assets AI first. So before I get into telling you about the key changes that we discovered and ended up making, a little bit about our process and the technology stack, because that'll help you better understand the changes I tell you about. So as I say, the what we were trying to change was the process of creating, digital and social assets at scale. And what we were already using, I mean, a little bit about our technology stack. It's called Media Ferry. It's our own proprietary technology stack. It has tools for work management and collaboration, for creative automation, review and approval, for browser-based editing of creatives or assets. It also has, lots of connectors to other platforms like ad platforms, digital asset management systems, work management systems, and a bunch of different platforms you would typically have, in your creative technology stack. And it's our own, IP. It's built, using our own technology, as well as integrating with third party tools. And we've been sort of building it and rebuilding it for as long as, I founded EKCS, so it's been, 20 years. So that's a bit about our technology stack. Now, what we realized, as we went further in our journey of balancing automation and human creativity, is that, firstly, in terms of the templates or the creative masters, what we changed was, apart from just tagging the templates itself, or the creative masters, that it is for so and so brand and so campaign, we also started tagging. Individual elements, text and copy, or copy and image elements in the template with information, like, well, essentially to make them more self-aware. So with information like what they are, what they can potentially become. For example, the dimensions of an image, what it could be sort of resized to, and how. So again, this was all information that AI could use to transform that element. So that was one change, which was quite a major change that we made. Both are the people skills, it required change to people skills, as well as the technology. Then another thing that we changed was, we built in functionality in our work management system to route requests to AI, based on a certain criteria. We put in functionality to enable our designers, to enable our creative managers or creative directors to easily give feedback on AI generated assets, like the quality of text, or the quality of images, image cropping, among other things, so that we could use this information to optimize Media Ferry AI. Then another interesting change, we already had, as I said earlier, tools to review and approve and edit assets in our Media Ferry stack, but we enhanced the editing functionality, so that once the assets are generated using AI, a designer doesn't have to sort of open them in native applications to make sort of to give it the finishing touches. Then another very interesting and new component that was added to our stack was what we now call what we call brand memory. And what this was, as I said earlier, we'd been working for a lot of these brands and advertisers for a long time. So we had a lot of data around their digital asset library, brand guidelines, in the case of recruitment, advertising diversity guidelines, among other things. And what we did was, we put all of this information into what we call Media Ferry AI's brand memory. So it's not too much different than muscle memory that humans have. So when Media Ferry AI creates an asset, it relies, apart from the brief, it also relies on this brand memory. And So yeah, I mean, those were some of the key changes that we made along the way in our PPT, and of course it required training and upskilling our staff, our teams, and along the way was also born what we now call Media Ferry AI, which is a composable library of AI tools that can be put together in different ways for different use cases, much like you would put Lego pieces to build different things. So that's a bit about the changes. I mean, the review and the changes that we made in our PPT. And next, I'll talk about once we started generating AI first creatives, what was our journey from there. So yeah. So again, before that, just a quick fact check that 50% of projects don't have a good success rate because of the brief, and that could potentially lead to $62 million of wasted expense. So that's interesting, and we ended up sort of using AI for generating briefs. So what really happened was that once we had started generating assets AI first, the next focus was to improve the quality of those assets, right? Because what's the point of these assets if a designer has to fix them so much, or has to start from scratch, where it takes them longer than what it was taking them earlier to create or produce these assets. So that the focus then shifted on producing better quality assets that were perhaps 60 to 80% of the way there, so that designers could sort of finish them up in 50% or less time than they were previously taking, to produce these assets. And an interesting sort of realization that came about is, much like human designers, even AI, it does a much better job at producing or creating these assets with a better, more detailed brief. And therefore we built what we now call better briefing AI, after we actually built Media Ferry AI to produce these assets. So what how we use it there is that once the requester has put in the brief, then Media Ferry AI gets to work and uses whatever information that's already put into the system. It also uses, remember I mentioned to you, brand memory. We already have a brand memory of the brand. And in addition to that, it would use an appropriate, briefing template that we have in our briefing template library, to predict more details around the brief, and gives the requester an opportunity to review and modify those details, so that the brief that actually goes into Media Ferry AI to produce these creatives is actually AI enhanced brief, which is reviewed much like how the assets are reviewed and finished by designers. The brief is enhanced by AI reviewed by humans, and then that's the brief that goes into Media Ferry AI to produce the assets. And what we found is that as a result of this change, it did help in significantly improving the quality of the assets AI is producing. So that's a bit about brief and how it is the foundation of efficiency and quality. So yeah, back to you, David.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Tariq. Let's move on to our second poll of the day. So, question is, creative briefs, are yours hitting the mark, or is there room to refine? Your two possible responses are, we're right on track, or there's room for improvement. We'll give it a few more seconds, but I think I can see where this one's going already. Okay, so 89%, so it's quite a resounding room for improvement. And look, we get it. Briefing really underpins everything in a creative studio. Bad brief, bad creative. We understand that, and I think there's a shared ambition between all of us. It sounds like, for us to be able to refine our briefing processes, and I think that we really need to be able to set the stage for a productive discussion on optimizing our briefs. And hopefully Tariq has kind of leaned you in a way to maybe think differently about how we can navigate these things in the future. Okay, let's move on to the next section. So section number 4, setting your house in order with no cost preparation strategies. Not everything needs a big budget. Today we're going to be talking about free and effective strategies to supercharge your team's efficiencies, sharpen those creative edges and build a foundation for success. But before we get into that, let's do our fact check. Companies that prioritize operational efficiency are 20% more likely to achieve higher profitability. Looking at ourselves, can we really afford to ignore a 20% potential profit increase? I'm not so sure. That's a lot of money left on the table. And then 80% of operational failures can be traced back to process issues. So are your processes helping or hindering your team's success? So how can I do this? We're going to provide some questions and maybe some strategies around taking a look at these type of things. So how about a process power up? How can we streamline our workflows to be more adaptable and resilient? For example, have you explored the following 6 areas? Number 1, operations and process optimization. Number 2, skill enhancement and cross-training. Number 3, cultivating a growth-oriented culture. Number 4, role clarity and expectations. Number 5, mindset shift from reactive to proactive. And finally, number 6, service level agreements. Are you setting clear boundaries within your organizations? Some other ideas we can consider is sharing the knowledge. What hidden talents are hiding within your team you have currently? How can you identify them? How can you unlock them? And how can you embrace a culture of continuous learning within your team? And finally, beyond the job description, how can we create roles that provide clarity and structure while still leaving room for innovation and growth? Let's move on to our third poll of the session. Team creativity and efficiency. Where are you at? Your possible responses are 1, resourceful and ready, or 2, room to grow. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit more even here. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you do see the potential for growth in your teams and enhancing efficiency. I think that obviously maybe while some of you do feel resourceful, I think it looks like there's a bit of a collective desire to unlock more potential within the teams, and hopefully a few of the points we discussed earlier will help you take a stop and think about what you could potentially do to improve in this area. Let's move on to the next section. Number 5. This is number 6. Time is your most valuable asset. Maximising efficiency. Have you got deadlines looming? Like, we hear you. When are they not? When we're living in the creative fast lane, time isn't just money. It's our most valuable asset. Let's explore how to squeeze the most out of every minute without sacrificing quality or sanity. Let's have another fact check. A 15% reduction in operational costs is achievable by companies that prioritize efficiency. Just imagine what you could do with 15% more budget. And time management training equals a 20% productivity boost and 30% less time wasted. Are you making the most of your team's most valuable resource, their time? So, how can we think differently, and what are areas ripe for review and refinement in this area? We could start with the efficiency balancing act. How can we streamline workflows without squashing the creative spark? For example, you could think about implementing agile methodologies in your design workflows. You could think about identifying and eliminating time wasting activities. You could think about becoming a time lord. Is there a hidden cost to always racing the clock in creative projects? What are your techniques for a better time allocation and prioritization, and are they working effectively? Have you thought about tools for time tracking? What technology do you have in place to do this? You could think about redefining productive. What does true productivity look like in the creative world beyond just checking boxes? You could think about streamlining workflows or creating templates and design systems for quick deployment. And finally, empowering self-service. How can AI help you here? I'll hand over to Tariq to discuss this a little bit further.
Yeah, thanks, David. So yeah, I mean, this is interesting because it's the story here is very similar to how AI briefing, came about. So what happened was that once we had, started creating, assets AI first, and we had also sort of in the work management system provided functionality to enhance the brief using AI. We realized that what, we can sort of empower people to self-serve themselves more and more, and therefore was born what we now call Media Ferry Client Hub, which enables requesters to request, manage, review, and edit their creatives, and of course it's integrated with Media Ferry AI for automation of the first pass of these assets, and if they find them acceptable or good enough to edit themselves, they do it. Otherwise, there is always the review tool to mark up changes and send it to a designer. So yeah, that's our story of how we empowered self-service.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tariq. Let's move on to our final section today. So this is section number 7, future-proofing, preparing for potential investment. The creative landscape is changing quicker than a TikTok trend. And we're here today to explore how to make the smart investments in your teams and tech, so you can ride the wave of change and help you stay ahead of the curve. So let's jump into our final fact check. 72% of HR teams say that upskilling and reskilling are essential for staying competitive in the face of tech advancements. Question yourself, are you investing in your team's future, or are you going to risk getting left behind? And 85% of the jobs that exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. So are you equipping your teams with the skills they need for the jobs that don't even exist? So how can I get myself prepared for this area? Skills for the unknown. We can't predict the future, but we can prepare for it. What skills will empower your team to thrive no matter what comes next? Tech that makes a difference. Not all investments are created equal. Let's pinpoint the tech that will truly level up your team's capabilities. And finally, the balancing act. How do you stay ahead of the game without losing sight of today's deadlines and deliverables? It's all about finding the sweet spot between vision and action. Let's jump into our final poll of the day. So, the future of your creative team. Are you prepared, or are you still exploring? Your 2 possible responses are ready to set sail, or we're charting the course. Okay, let's give it a few more seconds. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you for everybody who voted. So 87% are still charting their course. Look, I think this is understandable. It's a journey that, creative teams across the globe are currently on. There's so much new technology, there's so many new skills required, there's so many new, investments that can be made, and I think it's really just about exploring those key areas that we discussed earlier. The skills, the technology, and the strategies to really get yourselves and your teams prepared for whatever comes next.
So what, David, actually, so on this point, one learning that we had, when we were sort of embarking on our journey, is that while of course the challenge looks quite complex when you sort of state it as you want to automate a particular type of asset creation. But I think when you're starting off, it's useful to look at one very specific problem, which may be part of that bigger challenge. So in our case, we said, okay, we want to sort of automate the creation of digital and social assets, or generate them AI first. But we said that, what, before we sort of do it for this category of assets, let's just look at, for this particular client, or these kind of campaigns, let's try to do it there, and then we'll sort of build up from there. So it's very, so while it's very easy to get intimidated with the complexity of the challenge, but and also sort of be a bit greedy as well, trying to sort of solve it really really quickly and try to say, take away big chunks. but 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 yeah, I mean, if you sort of take small steps and incrementally build upon it, it's quite useful.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on. So, in essence, I think what we need to remember is the most powerful tool in your arsenal is not, a piece of software that we've discussed today or an AI algorithm. It's the collective creativity and adaptability, and the ingenuity of your team. The strategies we've discussed today are really goals to maximizing the human assets through smart and cost-effective optimization. So your journey starts now. Like, audit your processes, refine your briefs, optimize your tech usage, and most importantly, invest in your team's growth mindset. The design leaders of the future are people that will be able to do more with less, and who see constraints as opportunities for innovation, and who never stop learning and adapting. We challenge you today to have one idea that you take away from the session at least, and try and implement it within the next week. Share your experiences, learn from each other, learn from your teams, and remember that small, consistent improvements can lead to transformational change, as Tariq just said. So now let's move into our final section of today. So the floor is open for a Q&A. So feel free to post in the relevant section within the app, and hopefully we can help provide some responses for you.
Any questions?
I think I've just had one come through. So it's a question for both of us. It says, how can you ensure continuity within imagery with when using an AI model. Do you want to talk to that one, Tariq?
Yeah, so well, consistency in images. So essentially, well, firstly, I think when it comes to brand assets, you would generally be supplied the master images. So you obviously want to consistently resize them or shape them. And this is where I think a concept of brand memory, at least in our case, is quite helpful. In fact, it's quite helpful in just achieving consistency generally, uh, in the brand assets. So yeah, I mean that's use your existing data that you have, leverage it, build a brand memory and feed that as part of every prompt to whatever GPT or whatever AI that you're using.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning is that all of the imagery in this presentation, all this imagery is AI. So we use the Playground 2.5 model, which is similar to Midjourney, DALL-E, kind of Flux. And so we used Claude to help us generate some image prompts, funneled those into Playground, and then just tweaked the prompts just to really generate the look and feel that we wanted. And then from that point, it was really about consistency. So it was kind of using very similar drawing styles in the prompts. There's a great application out there called Poe, which allows you to remix a photo. So you can give it an image source, give it your new ideas or new prompts, and it will create an image based on the style of the one you're feeding into it. So yeah, there's multiple ways of approaching this, but I think what AI tools 12 to 14 months ago, they were very hit and miss. There wasn't a huge amount of consistency in terms of image generation, but I think as the technology progresses and advances, we're starting to see how you can generate that consistency within imagery.
Yes, there's
Um,
another question, David, which is how has your pricing structure changed based on assets being produced initially by AI? So I'll answer that. So I mean, look, what we've been able to do as a result is provide more content, more options, more design options. More sort of format sizes that enables our clients to do A/B splits or perhaps even test out campaigns on new channels, all within sort of similar pricing that we were charging earlier. There have also been cases where if the only thing that they need is the assets that we were producing earlier, we've been able to pass on the efficiency benefits to our clients as well. So another sort of question, David, that is come up is, given your experience leading digital transformations initiatives, how do you see the role of creative leadership evolving in the next 5 years as we navigate the balance between human creativity and AI processes?
um, I think we're going to have to try and balance the technology know-how with everything we know about creative today, in terms of culture, skills, and ability. And I think that we have to try and find that balance between the innovative solutions through like a human AI collaboration. I think we're going to have to build those jobs that don't exist yet. Like the statistics said earlier, by 2030, there's a number of roles that won't exist yet. And I think, what does that mean for creative teams? And it could be like an AI integration expert, someone who uses AI to improve creative workflows. You could have like a human AI facilitator, someone that blends the human creativity with AI tools. You could have like a data engineer, someone who pulls in all the data from the multiple different marketing channels and can really merge those data insights with their own creative instincts. Obviously, with the way things are going, technology is really going to be a key cog in the creative team's world. And I think finding someone who who's like a tech stack specialist who can really maximize the existing technology that you had. And we spoke about this type of thing earlier in the session. And then finally, maybe like a creativity enhancer, someone that really knows how to leverage the AI tools to amplify that human innovation, and kind of someone who's really on the cutting edge of technology, because everybody's thinking AI is going to kind of come take our jobs, but it's not AI taking people's jobs. It's probably the people who know how to use AI will be taking the jobs of the future. So I think that's how I would approach it, is really start to think about how can you balance the AI and human elements, how can we be strong in both areas, and then how can we equip the teams underneath us to be able to set that foundation for success in terms of whatever direction that this technology goes in.
Yeah, and David, on that note of how a designer can leverage AI automation and balance human creativity with AI first creation, I guess, or assets. I think another thing which is quite exciting is that is on a similar note. Another thing which is very exciting is how I see, how I envision AI automation evolving. Because and these are sort of connected things, and I'll explain. I mean, I see more and more, what I briefly described earlier, self-aware elements or assets, which already, human designers, because, even now, if you think about it, especially production designers, what do? They look at individual text and or copy and image elements, and then sort of they perhaps transform them, resize them, crop them, shape them differently, based on certain guidelines, right? And based on sort of visually how they see the transformed elements look like. And this is also speaks to an important skill or an important job of the future, is to sort of tag or codify the rules, right? The design rules of how a master creative can be transformed, into adaptations, into perhaps creatives for different channels, perhaps even tier one creatives or tier two creatives. And I think this not only speaks to the future of possibly the future of jobs, new kinds of jobs or opportunities for designers and creators, but also speaks to the evolution of the systems themselves, right? Once we've got a system which has self-aware assets, self-aware elements, within those assets. AI can sort of leverage that awareness, to transform them better and quicker. So I think these both sort of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Is there any other questions, Tariq? I'm not sure if you've got it to come through to you.
Nope, no, I don't see any other questions. So anything else, David, before we hand back to Ellie?
No, I think we'll just put up the final slide here. So yeah, I think that's the end of today's session. Both Tariq and I would like to thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the session. If you'd like to get in touch with either of us, our contact details are up on the screen there. And I think just the parting message is, let's work together to continue to push things forward, and elevate the world of design operations together. I think the future of success is in our hands, and I think now it's on us to challenge to create it. So again,
well, also another thing, really quickly, I just want to say just another thing is that I'll be tomorrow and day after at this technology for marketing event in London in Excel. So if anyone wants to sort of has any questions or wants to sort of pursue this discussion, drop me an email. Just put a subject AI webinar, so I don't miss the email, and happy to connect there as well.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, David and Tariq, for a great session. A reminder that the link to rewatch this webinar will be sent across to you tomorrow. And if you'd like to hear more from EKCS, please visit their booth at the upcoming conference, The Creative Operations in LA, taking place on October 8th. Thank you again for everyone. Thank you everyone for attending today's session, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.